Hi everyone, Gareth here at Neal. Today I am covering the industry-wide challenge of obtaining buy-in from the board and executive team for cybersecurity. I will also provide my top 5 tips for success at the end of this video. Okay, so what is the challenge? Well, senior leaders want the problem to go away. However, boards and executive teams often lack clarity on what the problem is, and in many cases lack the confidence to invest in what they perceive to be a complex area. So let's look at some of the common misperceptions. Firstly, security is seen as a cost. Most of the time, the lack of buy-in comes down to money, as board members view security as a cost and not an investment. However, this is not always the case. Time and time again, I experience situations where teams have these great ideas to transform a security conscious mindset through organizational awareness and culture programs, which don't actually have to incur any cost at all. However, once those magical words of culture and security come together, well, everyone seemingly goes into meltdown with excuses like, the business isn't ready, this is going to become a burden, we're not a big corporate, we're not a household brand, so who would want to attack us? Sound familiar? Which brings me on to the next 2 points, that security is frequently seen as a complicated, thin air piece of technology or risk stuff that is done to tick a box rather than make the business money. So what steps can we take to influence a positive change in the way board members and your executive team think? Well, let's start with what you shouldn't do. Please do not fall into the trap of using risk or fear tactics to win the hearts and minds of the board. It just does not work. Starting out as a CISO, I naively thought I could use such methods as, we need to do X for compliance or a new piece of regulation, or we need to do Y because our risk is Z. The reality, it doesn't work, and it works even less in today's world. Many people say to me, Gareth, selling security is easy, surely. There's so many breach examples and so many fine examples out there that you can use to scare the board or push the executive team into a corner, that surely they have to give you money to solve the issue. Again, this is far from reality. In my experience, this type of approach does not work in regulated firms, and it sure won't work in non-regulated firms. So what can we actually do? Well, firstly, we can enlist a small army of advocates from areas such as operations, finance, business development, supply chain, procurement. Don't underestimate the power of finance teams. After all, it's these teams that influence budget decisions. It's these teams, along with procurement, that will either back your business case or not. So having them on side from the outset is fundamental. Make the security function visible to the business, rather than being perceived to be locked away or a secretive team. Spend time with business area leaders to understand their pressures and jointly articulate how investment in security can support their goals, and in turn how investment will help the business grow. Be resilient with the ExCom member ultimately covering security, and push for dedicated time in senior meetings to talk about cyber. But please do be prepared for pushback at times, as your agenda won't always go the way you plan or intend it to go. Personally, I think a great idea is to partner with senior leaders in the business that already have an established voice at the top table. So, for example, a chief information officer. Importantly, do not be afraid to ask for help. One of the things you're trying to avoid is the concept of security against the world. This will only remain and get worse if you let it and you don't engage the business and you don't ask for support. So what are the outcomes? Well, If you can put all of this together, then your board and exec teams will get it. They will get it because you will have removed the fear factor for them, sometimes without you even realizing it. You will show how the business can transform by delivering cyber and data clarity. Importantly, and this is a huge takeaway, you will create confidence, not just the traditional confidence from the board being assured, but the real commercial confidence that comes from cyber being that strategic enabler for success. Now, when we get to this position with the board and your executive team, you will get the backing and investment you need to drive your security agenda forward. So, what are my 5 top tips for success? Well, firstly, sell clarity and confidence, not fear. Be visible, transparent, and most of all, passionate about your subject matter. Be patient. Understand what you are prepared to compromise on. Collaborate with business leaders and your peers. And finally, don't be afraid to ask for support. So here at Parker Neal, we work with clients facing this very common challenge. If this topic is also a challenge in your business, then reach out. We'd love to understand more and explore ways we can help.